That's right, 3 new bosses to add to the all boss run checklist. All of these bosses have new abilities, attacks, mechanics, and are a massive difficulty increase from their original fights. We also have 3 items based on each of the crystallized bosses to review, and Wagstaff has graced us with some new armor which has peculiar, yet powerful effects. Peculiar is hard to say. Along with a few other changes and items which altered the strategy for the all boss speedruns, but we'll cover those changes last. Let's start with how to spawn the bosses, what they do, and the strategies to take them out. To fight the 3 new bosses, we must of course spawn them. They can only be spawned while a Lunar Rift is active and the normal version of the boss dies. To spawn a Lunar Rift, you must defeat Celestial Champion and give Wagstaff the shard that Celestial Champion drops. Exactly 5 days after this, your first Lunar Rift will spawn. So after killing the normal version of the boss, a Bright Shade Spirit will approach and infest the corpse, giving rise to the crystallized version of the boss. All of these bosses count as planar entities and thus will reduce the physical damage dealt to them, and they will both deal physical and planar damage to their targets. The crystallization of the bosses also buffs all aspects of them and gives them brand new attacks and stun mechanics, along with all of them of course being lunar aligned, so shadow aligned equipment will deal more damage to them. Now let's talk in detail about all the bosses, items, and changes, starting with Crystal Deerclops. Crystal Deerclops have 3 abilities. Firstly, a basic melee attack, the same as regular Deerclops, as in it hits in a cone in the direction Deerclops attacks, along with an area around Deerclops' feet. And if it hits you, it adds frost to you. It takes 2 of these attacks to freeze you, leaving you immobile. Then it will knock you back. It deals 75 physical and 30 planar damage, and she will only use this attack if you're within her melee range. Otherwise, she will either chase you or use one of her other attacks. Her melee attack is unleashed in quick bursts of 2 to 3 attacks at a time if you stay within Deerclops' melee range. Next is a ranged attack, where Deerclops pulls an icicle from her back and throws it at you, dealing 100 physical and 30 planar damage in an area of effect which leaves an icy floor where it lands. The range of this attack is weird because Deerclops will only initiate this attack if she's within a 1.5 to 3.5 tile radius of her target, but her icicle targets you as the area of effect mark appears on the ground, which is after the initial beginning range animation. So if you run out of this 1.5 to 3.5 tile radius after she initiates the attack, she will throw the icicle further than 3.5 tiles potentially. This attack also adds frost to you and knocks you back if it doesn't freeze you, but Deerclops can only hold 2 icicles at a time on her back. After throwing both of them, she must regrow the icicles by bending down and playing a short animation. To reiterate, yes, this is a boss with a heavy hitting range attack, which is super cool because range enemies are very rare and don't starve together. Next is Deerclops' Ice Floor. Deerclops will freeze the ground around her where she stands, where she walks, where her icicle projectiles hit, and at the beginning of a fight, and every time she regrows her icicle in her eye. This ice floor both damages you by reducing your temperature to -2 and slows your movement speed by making you slightly groggy, while also adding frost to you. Enough frost so that if you stand on an ice floor then get hit by any of Deerclops' attacks, you will be frozen. Vulnerability. Deerclops does have some vulnerability though. When you set Deerclops on fire, it sets 1 of 3 icicles on fire, prioritizing the 2 icicles on her back, but setting either of these 2 back icicles on fire does nothing. But once both of those icicles from Deerclops' back have been thrown, and before she bends down to regrow them, setting her on fire will ignite the icicle where her eye used to be, which causes her to panic and become vulnerable as she falls to the floor for 6 seconds, where you can do some easy damage. Though the total time that Deerclops won't attack you is 12 seconds if you account for the panic animation, falling down, stun duration, and getting back up. After recovering from this stun, you must deal 1,200 damage to Deerclops before she will regrow her eye icicle, allowing you to set it on fire to stun her again. Deerclops has 2 states, with her eye icicle and without it. When she has her eye icicle, she will always have an ice flooring under her, while the other ice floors despawn after 1 to 2 seconds. But when Deerclops does not have her eye icicle, she will not generate ice flooring when she walks or when she regrows her back icicles. She will only generate ice flooring in this state by performing her range attacks. Equipment needed. This fight can be done without any speed bonus comfortably, but is made easier with one form of speed bonus like a walking cane, and is made significantly easier and faster with multiple sources of speed bonus like a walking cane and a magic luminescence, which currently has a free skin as a Twitch drop you can get by watching me on Twitch. Crystallized Deerclops is a planar entity, so you'll want a planar weapon like a Bright Shade Sword or Void Reaper to cut through her defense, but a planar weapon is not required. This fight can be done without taking any hits from Deerclops, but her lowest damage attack deals 75 physical and 30 planar, so probably bring a full armor set of Bright Shade or Void for the planar protection, or at least bring normal armor like a football helmet with some healing food. You can set fire to Deerclops with a torch and no speed burst to stun her, but you basically need frame perfect timing, so it's incredibly hard to pull off. Having one form of speed burst makes using a torch a lot easier, but even easier than that is using a fire staff, as it makes it immensely easier to stun her as you can set her ablaze from a distance. So bring that, especially if you have no speed bonus. It will be winter and you will be having your temperature get reduced by the ice flooring, so you will want a hot thermal stone and potentially a heat source like a Starcaller staff or a simple campfire to keep your thermal stone hot. Now the strategy which I came up with. The fight starts, Deerclops will spawn ice flooring, so you should stay away from that and bait Deerclops into firing off 2 icicles by staying out of her melee range. As she pulls an icicle out of her back, that is the moment she will lock onto your position with the range attack, so to avoid being being hit by the icicle move in a straight line when she pulls it out of her back. This typically ends up causing you to walk around Deerclops in a square pattern. After escaping the area of effect of the second icicle attack, equip your fire staff and set Deerclops on fire to stun her and knock her down. If she does regrow her icicles before you set her on fire, then she won't be stunned, but it's okay, simply bait out 2 more range attacks before attempting to set her eye icicle on fire again. As soon as you use your fire staff to stun Deerclops, run toward her. You will take a small amount of freezing damage from the ice floor along with some fire proximity damage from Deerclops being on fire, but you get more hits in by going in early. You could wait for her ice flooring to disappear so you don't take temperature damage, but you will get less hits. After 6 seconds of Deerclops being on the floor, she'll start getting back up and then begin attacking again. But like I said before, if you account for the panic animation for getting down, the stun duration and the getting up, it's actually 12 seconds of damage you can do. Now, like I said before, Deerclops will not grow her eye icicle back until you have dealt 1200 damage to her, counting from after she recovers from being stunned. So you cannot stun her until then, so now you must learn a fighting pattern which does not involve stunning her. You can continue attacking safely until Deerclops is standing on her feet again, then get 1 more hit in, then run away, because this is where Deerclops will unleash a flurry of 2 or 3 melee attacks in quick succession in an effort to freeze and knock you back. After the round of 2 or 3 melee attacks, she pauses for a normal amount of attack delay before re-engaging. This is where if you have lots of speed bonus, you can get lots of hits in because you can easily dodge this flurry of melee attacks by stepping back a little bit from Deerclops and running around her in a circle. Dodging the 2 to 3 quick melee attacks, then get 3 to 4 hits in before she starts a flurry of attacks again. But the safer option, especially if you have no speed bonus, is baiting out her range attacks, since Deerclops will chase and melee you if you're within range, otherwise she will range you, although her range attacks seem to have a cooldown, so sometimes she will chase you when you would expect her to range you. Anyway, bait out 2 range attacks, then after the second range attack, Deerclops must regrow her 2 icicles. During this animation, you get 3 to 4 hits in before dodging a melee attack and repeating. After doing this enough times to deal 1200 damage, she will regrow her eye icicle and ice flooring, and now you can stun her again after baiting out 2 icicle attacks. And you just repeat that until she dies. To get this strategy down, it did take me a few hours of practice, so don't worry if you struggle, it is a kind of hard fight. Also, this fight is much faster and a lot different if you have lots of speed bonus, as you won't be baiting out range attacks while you can't stun her. Instead, you'll dodge her flurry of quick melee attacks and then get your damage in faster. Anyway, not much more to say about this boss other than I'm sorry to say that Crystal Deerclops is probably the easiest of the 3 bosses that we're going to talk about in this video. So let's move on to the next boss. Armored Bearger has 4 abilities and is a harder fight than Deerclops if you don't know what's going on. Bearger has her standard slash attack, the same as normal Bearger, but I believe they refined Bearger's slash attack in this update, so now to dodge the attack, you can either run away or hug Bearger, and as she starts her slash attack, simply go around her by 30 to 45 degrees, as the area effect of the slash is a cone in the direction of the slash. Anyway, back to Armored Bearger. Her slash attack has 2 twists. Firstly, when she swipes, she lunges forward slightly, effectively increasing her reach, but this also makes it extremely easy to evade by moving 30 to 45 degrees around Bearger's feet. Secondly, if you're still within her slashing range after the last slash and Bearger is still targeting you, she will slash again without delay, extending her attack combo. This can continue indefinitely until whoever or whatever Bearger is targeting either leaves her range by getting knocked back, dies, or Bearger switches targets. So using tree guards to kill Crystal Bearger won't work as well as normal Bearger, as now you'll need 8 big tree guards to take out Armored Bearger. Each swipe deals 87.5 physical and 30 planar damage in an area in the direction of the swipe. But like I said, moving about 30 to 45 degrees to either side in front of the swipe at Bearger's feet will dodge the swipe. This is a new area of effect for Bearger's swipe that was added in this update for both the normal and the armored versions, like I said before. Bearger retains her charging attack, leading into a slam attack, which has the same timing as normal Bearger. The slam part of the attack deals 87.5 physical and 30 planar damage in an area around Bearger. This attack has a cooldown such that you usually bait out 3 non-combo slash attacks before she will do a slam attack. If you are out of her melee range when she tries to do this attack, she will charge toward you, then slam once you are within range, or after she has traveled 15 tiles without getting in range. A special attack Armored Bearger has is if whatever Bearger is targeting goes behind her, she will look behind her and jump back onto the target with a butt slam. This attack deals 87.5 physical damage and 30 planar damage, but there's also a second hit from this attack, the first being the immediate impact area where Bearger lands and creates a crater, and the second hit area is the shockwave that comes out of the impact area. This part of the attack also deals 87.5 physical and 30 planar damage. If you're in the immediate impact area, you'll usually get hit by both the initial damage and the shockwave damage, but sometimes not the shockwave damage, and if you're outside of the impact area, you can still of course get hit by the shockwave as it ripples out from the impact area. The attack also leaves behind a crater in the immediate impact area similar to Antlion, which slows you down substantially if you walk in it, but it disappears after 20 seconds. Vulnerability. After Bearger does her butt slam attack, you can hit her twice with planar damage before she gets back up to stun her, which leaves her on the floor free to do damage. She will be vulnerable for 8 seconds, counting for her falling down animation, the stun duration, and her recovery animation. You will not be able to bait out this butt slam attack to stun her again until you have dealt over 800 damage to her after she recovers from being stunned. This means at the start of the fight, Bearger will not do the butt slam attack until she drops below 7,200 health. A third special attack combines multiple attacks, and we will call it the Flying Butt Slam. This attack has very specific conditions for the attack to activate. Firstly, you must have stunned Bearger at least once during the fight already. Secondly, Bearger must have the ability to do the butt slam attack, so after she recovered from being stunned, she must have been dealt more than 800 damage. If these conditions are met and you get further than 2.5 tiles away from Bearger, she will immediately charge towards you, and upon getting close enough, will jump with a butt slam attack aiming at you. This attack will continue repeatedly until you stay within a 2.5 tile radius of Bearger or you stun her, which these butt slam attacks do allow you to do if you hit her twice with plan damage before she gets up. Also, if you have very unfortunate positioning, Bearger's flying butt slam can stagger you more than 2.5 tiles away, causing her to do the attack again, repeatedly. Equipment needed. You need to deal planar damage to stun Bearger, so a planar weapon is a must unless you plan on killing her without utilizing the stun mechanics, which is possible to do, but it will result in a very slow kill. Bearger deals planar damage, as we've said, so Bright Shade or Void Armor will reduce her damage significantly, and I would highly recommend Armor since getting hit without armor by her butt slam attack's impact area will deal 235 damage, instantly killing any unarmored player except the WX78 with health circuits. Bearger can be done without speed burst, but is much more comfortable with a walking cane, or better yet, a walking cane and a mag, because to both avoid her butt slam attack and make it back to her in time to stun her before she gets back up is a tight window without speed burst, but still doable with practice. But a walking cane is advised anyway. Any more speed burst than a walking cane allows you to get one or so more hits in between dodging attacks, along with getting the stun easier. So bring as much speed burst as you want, but a walking cane is enough, and a walking cane and a mag is plenty, so no need to put down cobblestone turf. Now the strategy. Bearger will spawn with her slam attack off cooldown, so we'll start the fight with the slam attack, so bait it out without getting hit. Now begins the main pattern of the fight, which is dodge her slash attack by moving 30 to 45 degrees around her feet, then do 3 to 4 or more hits depending on your speed burst. This will allow you to not only dodge the swipe, but also you'll remain close enough to Bearger to get extra hits in, as when she lunges forward, you'll still be within range without having to move. If you were to dodge by going fully behind her, you will miss an attack when she lunges forward. Repeat this 3 times in total, then after the third slash attack, the next attack will be the slam attack, which you must run away for. Then run back to Bearger, dodge the first slash again by running 30 to 45 degrees to the side of Bearger, and repeat. Once you have dealt more than 800 damage to Bearger, she will interrupt this attack pattern the next time you go behind her after a slash attack. She will turn her head and perform her butt slam attack. There's 2 ways to predict when she will do this attack, which is to look at her health and do some quick math to determine at what health she will perform the next butt slam attack, which is subtracting 801 from the health she had after recovering from a stun, or know how much damage you do per hit and thus how many hits you need to land to deal over 800 damage. The first butt slam activation of the fight is when she drops below 7,200 health, but what I prefer to do is focus fully on counting her 3 slash attacks to avoid the slam attack, and then not predicting but simply watching for and reacting to Bearger turning her head to perform a butt slam attack, leading to a perfect kill. Although after enough practice, I would know when her butt slam was coming because I knew how many hits I needed to deliver to deal over 800 damage. At the start of the animation of Bearger turning her head, she locks onto your position and will jump back in that direction. Seemingly the distance she jumps back is 0.25 to 1 tile, but most importantly is the angle in which she jumps back. Upon seeing her move her head, move relative to Bearger either up or down along with toward Bearger. This will dodge the butt slam attack impact area and the shockwave damage, then as you see the shockwave dissipate, go back in to hit Bearger twice before she gets back up to stun her. If you miss the timing, don't worry, as the next time you dodge her swipe, she will simply do the butt slam attack again. My Twitch viewers had a lot of trouble dodging the butt slam attack, so I drew this beautiful illustration which depicts Wilson running in any direction that isn't the direction that Bearger is jumping. So you can run perpendicular to Bearger, in front of Bearger, doesn't matter, as long as you don't run in the direction that Bearger is jumping, while avoiding Bearger's collision, which will block you, slowing you down. The timing to stun Bearger can be tight, so if you miss it, you'll still get a hit or 2 in, but then you must dodge and attempt the stun again. Also, it does require specifically 2 planar hits to stun her, but as long as you get the first hit in time, it will stagger Bearger out of getting up, so your second hit will stun her. Continue hitting her while she is stunned until she gets back up. After getting up, she will perform a slam attack, dodge this, then pull her away from the crater her butt slam attack made, and start the pattern of dodging 3 slashes, then 1 slam, until she performs the butt slam attack again, at which point you can stun her again. Now, in a perfect fight, Bearger never does her flying butt slam attack, but if you do find yourself in that situation, it's actually very easy to dodge. In fact, you can specifically bait it out if you find it easier to dodge. So upon Bearger's health stun threshold being met, so she can do the butt slam attack, simply bait out an attack, then run at least 2.5 tiles away, and she will charge after you. When she begins charging toward you, run directly back toward her in a straight line. This will let you run under her as she jumps, completely avoiding the flying butt slam, and then you can go back toward her to stun her. Though, without any speed bonus, sometimes Bearger's jumps timing will not line up nicely and you get hit even though you did everything correct. Though with the walking cane, you will consistently dodge this attack using this method. The Clay developers said this attack attack is meant to deter players from trying to escape the fight, as Bearger will keep chasing you while performing flying butt slams. But as we know, Bearger has to have the ability to perform the butt slam attack to use the flying butt slam. So if you want to abandon the fight, stun Bearger, then run away. Although if Bearger decides to flying butt slam you, there really is no escape. She will chase you forever unless you can run faster for a very long time. Once you get the strategy down, armored Bearger can be easier than Deerclops, but the kill might take you longer than Deerclops. Right, next is the hardest boss in this video, or at least I struggled the most with it. The Possessed Varg. The Possessed Varg has all the abilities of the regular Varg with 2 new additions. So in case you don't know, to spawn a Varg you must do a hunt, which is to follow dirt piles until at the end you will find one of 3 creatures: a Koalaphant, a Yukos, or a Varg. The chance to find a Yukos or a Varg starts at 5% on day 1 and caps at 33% at day 100 and above. Otherwise you get a Koalaphant. Except with this update, if a lunar portal is active, then a hunt will always have these footprints next to them, and they will always end with a Varg and some hounds eating a Koalaphant carcass, which is truly disturbing with all the hounds and Varg's new itchy animations. Anyway, onto the Possessed Varg's abilities. Firstly, the bite attack. This is the same as the regular Varg, except this version of the bite deals 50 physical and 30 planar damage. Nothing more going on here. Howl. This howl will summon hounds, same as the regular Varg. The amount of hounds he can spawn in one howl is limited depending on your day count. Day 1 he spawns a max of 2 at a time, capping at 4 total. After day 100 he spawns a max of 4 at a time, capping at 5 total. But these hounds are special because upon any non-elemental hound summoned this way dying, it won't disappear. Instead, it will transform into a horror hound. You can burn the corpse of the hound to stop it from spawning a horror hound though. The Varg will also have a higher hound cap the more amount of players that are close by. Frost Breath. The crystallized Varg will unleash a barrage of crystallized flames in a cone in front of him, which if you get caught up in, will set your temperature to -2 and deal 20 physical and 30 planar damage per flame per tick. This attack has a cooldown of 8 seconds. I say 20 physical and 30 planar damage per flame per tick because one flame can damage you multiple times. Seemingly, each flame ticks once every 20 to 30 frames or 2 to 3 times per second, each tick dealing damage to you if you're touching the flame. This can result in an absurd amount of damage, such as getting dealt up to 362 damage in one attack. The Frost Breath's last damage tick seems to deal 50 physical and 30 planar damage rather than 20 physical damage, resulting in a big last hit of 80 if you didn't escape the area of effect. Running over the border of 2 flames will cause you to take damage from both flames, resulting in the abnormally high total damage of 362 if you cross the border of 2 flames on their last tick. Otherwise, if you stand directly in front of the Varg during the attack and you don't move, you'll take 232 damage. This attack can be dodged by running directly away from the Varg, or much more simply, sliding around the Varg's right side, as the Frost Breath Flame Barrage starts on the Varg's left side and only hits the cone area in front of the Varg. Vulnerability. The Varg can be stunned as well by simply dealing planar damage to it while it's doing its Frost Breath attack. Doing this will stun it after it finishes its Frost Breath attack. This stun lasts for 8 seconds total, accounting for the falling down animation, the stun duration, and the getting up animation. This stun mechanic has no cooldown. I would like to clarify though that you must hit the Varg during its Frost Breath attack and not at the end of the Frost Breath attack, so while it is actually spewing out flames. Equipment needed. You can kill the Varg without stunning it, but stunning it gives you free hits, so you probably want a planar damage weapon. The Bright Shade Staff is insane at crowd controlling the hounds that the Varg summons, and good at easily stunning the Varg, but not required. If you don't have the Bright Shade Staff, you could bring the Fire Staff to burn the hound corpses so they don't transform. Speed bonus is preferable, as you will need to kite and kill the hounds while dodging the Varg itself, so bring as much as possible, and I really mean it. Even the regular Varg is a pain to kill unless you set it on fire, and even then you need to be dodging up to 5 hounds. Now the strategy. Upon the Varg spawning, its Frostbreath attack will be on cooldown, so repeat dodging a melee attack and do 3 hits until it has done 3 melee attacks. At some time during the melee attack sequence, the Varg will howl to call in hounds, but this does not delay his next melee attack. After 3 melee attacks or 8 seconds, the Varg will do the Frost Breath attack, at which point very simply run to the Varg's right side and then run behind the Varg to avoid the Frost Breath cone area, as like I said, the Frost Breath starts on the left side of the Varg. Then hit the Varg before it finishes its Frost Breath attack to stun it. This is where you either get hits in on the Varg or deal with the hounds. If you have a Bright Shade Staff, then equip that and continue attacking the Varg. The staff's projectiles will bounce around and kill the hounds. Use the Bright Shade Helmet to get 7 hits rather than 5 from each cast of the staff. If you do not have a Bright Shade Staff, kill the hounds normally with your weapon and burn their corpses with the Fire Staff to prevent the corpses from spawning Horror Hounds. This is because the Horror Hound transformation takes too long and they will end up spawning as the Varg's stun wears off. We don't want that. Once the Varg recovers from the stun, he'll do 1 howl and a maximum of 2 bite attacks, then his Frost Breath Breath will be off cooldown, so will Frost Breath again. This strategy sounds simple on paper, but in practice, it's incredibly messy and inconsistent because of the Hound's behavior, and you will probably take damage unless you have lots of speed bursts and let the fight take 5 minutes or so. Also, the hardest part of the fight is the start, as you have to wait a long time for the Frost Breath while dealing with Hounds and the Varg. It gets easier after the first Frost Breath because the Frost Breath of the Varg damages and kills all Hounds except Horror Hounds, which are immune to it. This means you should be using the Varg's Frost Breath to take care of most of the Hounds before stunning it. Utilizing the Frost Breath in this way, along with consistently stunning the Varg, can make the fight a lot easier. Strategy 2. Cheese. Both the normal and possessed Varg are a massive pain to kill, so here's a couple of cheese strategies to take care of them. Set up 6 walls with something Hounds will eat, like a meat, a morsel, or a pigskin inside of the walls. After doing this, get the aggro of the Varg and run around until it howls so that it has its maximum amount of Hounds following it. You'll notice that the Hounds prioritize going for the food which they can't reach inside of the walls over chasing you, at least until you hit the Varg, at which point the Hounds will come to attack you, which is a pain. So what we'll do is drag the Varg 2 screens away or so until the Hounds on the walls they're hugging become unloaded. This means they cannot do anything, including run toward and attack you. Now you can 1v1 the possessed Varg without dealing with its Hounds, which makes the fight substantially easier, as the fight pattern is now dodge Frost Breath and then stun the Varg, then hit until it gets back up, then dodge 2 melee attacks and get 3 hits in between each, then his Frost Breath will be off cooldown again. Unless you took a while to dodge, then he may only do 1 melee attack before Frost Breathing. So to make this consistent, I'd recommend just tanking the kill, as the Varg dies very fast. So after it recovers from being stunned, tank 2 melee attacks, then dodge Frost Breath by running to the Varg's right side and stun it again. This works since the Varg can only have so many Hounds tethered to him, even if they're unloaded, so he will not call in anymore. This strategy also works for the normal Varg, but when the Varg transforms between normal and possessed, the Hounds from the normal Varg will become wild and bite through your bait pen walls, which means upon killing the normal Varg, run away from it and kill the Hounds at the bait pen, then set up the bait pen ready for the possessed Varg's Hounds. Strategy 3. Cheese 2. You can also just take the Varg to other mobs like 12B Flowed Bearger, both the regular or the crystallized versions, the Twins of Terror, or as Warlock Adam showed us with his video linked in the description, using 3 deadly bright shades will also quite easily take care of the Varg. And all this requires is dragging the Varg across the map to wherever the other mobs are. I would basically always recommend cheesing the Varg in some way, because doing the fight solo either means taking lots of damage, using lots of resources, or just a really long fight. Also, just for fun, if you're playing Weber, grab yourself as little as 3 nurse spiders and 10 spider warriors, or any spider that has more than 200 health, and use them to take out the Varg without even needing to help them. I was incredibly surprised to see that this works, but yeah, 10 spider warriors, spitters, or cave spiders, and 3 nurse spiders is enough to kill the possessed Varg. If you want to avoid fighting all of these bosses while the Lunar Rift is active, either set the boss on fire before it dies, or after it dies, burn the corpse. This will prevent the corpse from being infested and revived into the crystallized version. These bosses are all a great challenge, and I really like their design, and I look forward to defeating them in my all boss run videos. But now, we will discuss the 3 new powerful craftable items which are based on these 3 boss encounters. These new items can be crafted at the Bright Smithy, which is crafted from a lunar altar. All of these items require a new item called a Spark Ark. Your first Spark Ark is acquired after killing one of each of the 3 bosses that we just talked about. After each boss dies, Wagstaff will appear and tell you that he needs more specimens or whatever until you kill the 3rd boss. This time he will appear and give you the Spark Ark. To get the additional Spark Ark is a little easier than getting your first one, since now you get 1 Spark Ark per boss kill. But after getting 1 Spark Ark from, for example, Crystal Deerclops, you won't get another for killing Crystal Deerclops until you have killed both Armored Bearger and a possessed Varg to reset the streak. Anyway, you're not done yet, because you need to take the Spark Ark down to the archives, and remember those little lights that revive those annoying centipede things? You need to drop the Spark Ark in the path of those lights for it to get trapped in the Spark Ark. This charged version of the Spark Ark is what you need to craft all of the items. The Ice Crystalleyezer, costs 1 charged Spark Ark, 8 Moon Shards, 5 Pure Brilliance, and 3 Moonstone to craft, giving you the kit for the structure. After placing it, it does nothing. You must place a Deerclops eyeball in it, and then it does all of the following within its massive 8.75 tile radius. It will create an ice floor around it, which sets your temperature to -2 if you stand on it, also preventing all and any fires from spreading onto the ice. The Ice Crystalleyezer will change the environment temperature in its area to -10, meaning it's basically a mini winter, but not actually winter. It prevents wildfires in its area of effect, plants won't wither in its area of effect, and it makes things dry out slower, including any water in your farming turf. Things rot slower in its area of effect, just like winter, being it takes 1.25 times longer for things to spoil. Lastly, it will cause unnatural mini glaciers to spawn and grow in a 3-tile radius around it. Yes, the ice glaciers that normally spawn during winter and near Pengull nests. It will attempt to spawn 1 glacier every 7 to 12 days, but the glaciers can be blocked if something is on the floor where it was going to spawn, causing the respawn timer to reset, and it can only have 6 ice glaciers active at a time. It's noteworthy that natural mini glaciers in its area of effect will not be regrown by the Ice Crystalleyezer. Sounds good, right? Since it reduces the ambient temperature to -10, it will always try to freeze you just like winter, unless of course you use a thermal stone or insulation gear to slow down your temperature loss, although thermal stones don't mitigate the Ice Crystalleyezer temperature effect during summer specifically, unfortunately, due to the thermal stone mechanics, which I'm not going to talk about. So a lot of people asked me, what is this structure even useful for? Well, the main use for it that I can think of is during summer. Rather than dealing with overheating, wildfires, your crops wilting, and water evaporating from your farming turf, instead you plug the Deerclops eyeball into this thing and turn your base into winter, except not really. So you still have to deal with ambient temperature, except instead of it being too hot, it's too cold, but you get the perks that I listed above: no wildfires, plants won't wither, etc. Otherwise, for every other season, you would just unplug the Deerclops eyeball to turn this structure off. Or you can just leave it in the middle of nowhere and visit it from time to time to mine some ice. The first time you should wait between 7 and 12 days per ice glacier to spawn, but then they won't despawn while the ice crystallizer is left on, so you can visit every 15 days thereafter, where each glacier fully regrows to mine some more ice. Note that it only protects from wildfires. It doesn't put out or stop actual fires except in the ice floor around it. Like if a firehound dies in your base or a wildfire outside of the structure's area of effect spreads into your base, it will not stop it. Also, the structure doesn't actually turn the area of effect into winter. You don't get snow or anything like that. You only get the things that I listed. So I think this structure is fine for use in like summer with some winter insulation gear to stop you from getting cold, but definitely the weakest of the items that we're going to talk about. The Polar Bear Drippin is a very simple but so effective infantry item that requires 1 charged Spark Ark, 1 Bear Drifter, 3 Pure Brilliance, and 5 Moonstone to craft. And once in your inventory, you can open it. Inside, it has 6 slots and can only store crockpot dishes within. And its effect? It reduces spoilage time by 20 times. 20 times, meaning pierogies which take 20 days to spoil in your inventory will now last 400 days before spoiling inside the Polar Bear Drippin. For scale, a fridge reduces spoilage time by 2 times, so pierogi would last 40 days in a fridge. That's a crazy amount of reduction in spoilage time, and when you're on the go, you can keep all the food you will ever need, like hunger, healing, sanity, and like wily buffing food, etc., all inside the Polar Bear Drippin. But there is something that makes food spoil even slower: bundling wrap. Bundling wrap pauses spoilage completely while the food is bundled up, but only has 4 slots, and when you unbundle it, it drops all of your food on the floor, and you must use a rope to rebundle it. So technically, bundling wrap can keep food from spoiling for longer, but the Polar Bear Drippin is much more convenient. I would use both, the Polar Bear Drippin for on the go and bundling wrap for long-term storage. The Polar Bear Drippin can be opened, which causes the character to drop it, allowing you to move crockpot dishes in and out of it by holding shift and clicking on the dishes, or dragging them in and out. Other players cannot pick the bin up or steal the food inside of it, so don't worry about that. But if you want it to act as a public food storage, simply drop it first, then open it from the floor. Then multiple people can access it at the same time like a fridge. You can also use crockpot dishes directly on the bin to store it without having to open or drop the bin. Anyway, I love this item and will 100% be using it as soon as I unlock it, as it's just so convenient. The next boss item is the most powerful piece of equipment in this video. I think. The Howlitzer. This weapon can be crafted with 1 charged Spark Ark, 3 Bright Shade Husks, 3 Pure Brilliance, and 3 Moonstone. And upon crafting, this weapon deals a devastating 10 damage? Wait, that can't be right. Oh wait, this thing uses ammo. More specifically, Hound's Teeth. Loading this item with Hound's Teeth will turn it into a reloadable ranged weapon similar to a blow dart. Its range is 3.5 tiles and its damage is quite special, as it has an equal split of 34 physical and 34 planar damage. It also deals plus 10% total damage versus shadow aligned enemies, as this weapon is lunar aligned. So against a regular enemy, it hits as hard as a dark sword at the same attack speed, except at a long 3.5 tile range, which is devastating versus most bosses, as attacking at range breaks most bosses in that it increases your DPS as you don't have to dodge or chase the boss like Celestial Champion Phase 3, or the boss just fails to do anything in retaliation, like against Ancient Guardian, who will constantly get staggered out of his charging attack due to the constant pokes from the Howlitzer. I love this weapon so much. Ranged attacks are incredibly powerful and don't stab together simply because most enemies just aren't designed to deal with ranged attacks other than other ranged attack enemies, which are very few and far between. So you'll be destroying all enemies in the continent with this weapon. Like truly, I can't understand how amazing this weapon is, in my opinion, of course. Though be extra vigilant of your Howlitzer running out of ammo, because if it does and you're holding F, your character will run toward the enemy attempting to bonk it for 10 damage in melee range. Luckily, reloading the Howlitzer doesn't cause any delay or stop you from moving, which is good. Simply right click some Hound's Teeth with the Howlitzer equipped, or use the Hound's Teeth on it in your inventory. The latter though does have an animation and cause a little bit of delay. So now in multiplayer you can actually have a dedicated tank and DPS roles, as all your DPSs can just stand at range using the Howlitzer out of range of the boss, while a dedicated tank sits between the boss and the DPSs. Now the problem with the Howlitzer is, well, it burns through Hound's Teeth very fast. For example, 1 Dark Sword will deliver 680 damage before breaking, costing 5 Nightmare Fuel and 1 Living Log. The Howlitzer deals 680 damage with 100 Hound's Teeth, but to get 100 Hound's Teeth, you need to do one of the following: kill 800 normal hounds, 100 red hounds, 50 ice hounds, or 50 horror hounds. That's a lot of hounds for 100 shots from the Howlitzer. Luckily for you, I came up with a great Varg farm design that can hold up to 16 or more Vargs, and will have you overflowing with Hound's Teeth by killing 190 hounds per minute, which which gets you 202 teeth per minute along with 20 red or blue gems per minute, but we'll save that part for a different video. No stealing, you must be patient, no. Not only do you require a lot of hound teeth, but one stack of hound teeth is only 40 of them, so you would need to use up a few inventory slots to hold the hound teeth. This just means that you need to roughly know how many hound teeth you need to kill a boss before going to the boss. For example, if you were to take out Celestial Champion Phase 1, 2, and 3, you would need 546 hound teeth, which is 13 inventory slots of hound teeth and a loaded Howlitzer. Wow. Also, the Howlitzer's planar damage is not buffed by Wolfgang's Mighty Weapons skill, as the skill only works with melee weapons, not ranged weapons. Anyway, the Howlitzer is amazing versus basically every boss because of the range damage, as the bosses just don't have the ability to counter range attacks, including all the new Crystaleyezer bosses, except Deerclops. Even then, it's still amazing, so yeah, make this thing first with your first Spark Ark. It's kind of insane. That's all the boss-related items. Now we move on to Wagstaff's new armor, which is very unique and powerful, but it's a massive pain to get hold of, so let's talk about how to do that first. The armor pieces require 8 scrap, 3 electrical doodads, and 1 enlightened shard to craft each. The shard you get from deconstructing an enlightened crown dropped by Celestial Champion. The doodad you can craft, but what is scrap? Scrap is a new item introduced with the update, which can be acquired by doing the following. After defeating Celestial Champion and giving the shard to Wagstaff, every 4 to 7 days machinery will spawn in your world, although only one set of machines can be active at a time, and the 4 to 7 day countdown starts again after hammering the first set of machines. Then one day after the machinery spawns, Wagstaff will appear next to a player in the server and run in the direction of his machines, hinting at their location. He will do this up to 11 times in total, with increasing time between each hint, with the 11th hint happening 88 days after the machinery spawns. Using these hints, you can find the location of the machines, or you can just explore your map randomly and hope you find them. You get a new set of hints for each set of machinery that spawns. You want to find the machines because you can hammer them to get 1 or 2 scrap and a 40% chance of getting 1 of 3 blueprints, being for the new armor pieces and the item to repair the armor. Each machine drops 1 to 2 scrap, 75% chance of 2 scrap, 25% chance of 1 scrap, and there are 3 machines per spawn wave. This means you need to break 9 to 10 machines on average to have enough scrap to craft the W.A.R.B.I.S body and helmet, which is the new armor. And then you will need 1 scrap for every repair kit as well. 9 to 10 machines will take on average 16 to 17 days to spawn, assuming you break the machines as soon as they spawn, which almost definitely will not happen. So it will probably take you about 20 days or so. The machines can also drop the following: 10% chance at electrical doodad, 50% chance at frazzled wires, 1% chance at Wagstaff don't starve dentures, and finally 1 cutstone has a 75% chance of dropping. So that's how to make the armor. Now what does the armor do? Both armor pieces have a targeting system, which I'll talk about now, then talk specifically about what the armor pieces do themselves along with their special effects. The targeting mechanic is simple. When you land a hit on an enemy, 2 seconds later the armor pieces will target that enemy and gain 1 charge, then begin gaining more charges, gaining the second charge 10 seconds after the first, then the third charge 5 seconds later, and the final 4th charge 5 seconds after that. So it takes 22 seconds in total to gain all 4 charges. These charges give each armor piece a different ramping effect. Also, if you have one W.A.R.B.I.S armor piece equipped, like the helmet, and it is fully charged, then you equip the body piece. After a small delay, the body armor piece will sync with the helmet, giving it 4 charges. If you switch targets, get more than 4 tiles away from your target, or your target dies, then the armor resets back to 0 charges, losing the effects of the armor until you target something again and start gaining charges. Both armor pieces provide 85% physical damage reduction along with a flat +5 planar defense each, and both have 730 durability. So you have to repair the items? But how? By crafting an automechanic. Haha, automechanic. This requires 1 scrap, 1 electrical doodad to craft. Using one of these on an armor piece will fully repair it. Now, the armor's special effects. This body armor piece goes on your body slot, obviously. And like I said before, when you attack an enemy, the armor will begin charging. You can tell if the armor is operating as the cogs on it will begin to turn. It has 4 stages of charging, and on each charge, the armor's special effect is that it grants you speed bonus. And you can tell when it gains a charge because it will puff out some smoke. After you have acquired the 4th stage of charging, you gain a grand total speed bonus of 30%, which is the biggest speed bonus you can get from the body slot in the game, beating the Magiluminescence by 10% speed bonus. More specifically, the first charge gives you 10% speed bonus, the second one gives you 15%, the third one gives you 20%, and of course the 4th one gives you the before mentioned 30% speed bonus. Also, if you attack something but the attack misses, then the armor does not engage. You have to actually land a hit on the enemy. Also, if the enemy that you attacked de-aggroes from you for whatever reason, the armor stays targeted and charged, as long as you stay within a 4-tile range. So you can attack a pigman, let it de-aggro by feeding it meat, then befriend it by feeding it meat again, and since the target is still within a 4-tile radius, your armor stays charged forever, at least until the pigman leaves the 4-tile radius, which will happen because you'll be moving a lot faster than the pigman. So what if we had a follower that moves just as fast as us? Well, merms! So yeah, if you attack a merm as Wurt or with a disguise as a non-Wurt player, then feed it 2 vegetables to de-aggro it and befriend it, the merm will follow you and the armor will keep targeting it, and the merm's movement speed is fast enough to keep up with your fully charged W.A.R.B.I.S armor. The only problem is it takes being about 3.5 to 4 tiles away from a merm to make it start following you, so you kind of have to slowly walk away from the merm to make it start following you, then you can run at full speed. If you run at full speed without waiting for the merm to follow you, you might run out of range, causing the armor to reset. To make this even better, and when I say better, I mean it's just so stupid and you won't actually do it, go to the Lunar Grotto, capture a few light bugs, bring them to your base and drop them, then attack one by freezing it with an ice staff as to not kill it. Your armor has now targeted that light bug. Slap that frozen light bug with a pillow to break it out of being frozen, now catch a different light bug, causing the targeted light bug to start following you after a short delay after it forgives you for attacking it. This works flawlessly at keeping your speed bonus, but requires a little setup to target it and make it follow you, but my Twitch chat thought of the idea and I thought it was funny, though it doesn't work if you go in or out of the caves. Anyway, this armor is pretty good. It's a 2-in-1 armor piece giving high 85% physical damage reduction with +5 planar resistance, along with the ramping speed bonus up to 30%. Only issue is, it takes 20 seconds to reach the maximum speed bonus. In a boss fight, this is fine because the boss fight will probably last multiple minutes, so the majority of the time will be spent with the maximum speed bonus. So good versus long fights versus one target, not very good against much else. The W.A.R.B.I.S helmet. The W.A.R.B.I.S head slot item's special effect is when it gains charges, it gives you a ramping physical damage multiplier, starting at 5% and ending at 20%. Though the headgear gains charges a little peculiarly. When you attack an enemy, you will have the first charge's 5% damage increase upon your first attack landing. Then there's the normal 2-second delay where the headgear's interface will display 1 charge, then it gains the rest of the charges normally. Just seems odd that you get the 5% damage increase before the helmet targets the enemy. Anyway, this is a good thing. This is the second head slot item in the game that provides damage, the first being the Enlightened crown. In case you don't know, while wearing the crown and hitting an enemy, while your sanity is above 85% of your max, it drains 1 sanity to fire a Gestalt at the enemy, dealing 42.5 damage unless the enemy moves, causing the Gestalt to miss. Like we said, the W.A.R.B.I.S headgear provides a 20% physical damage buff, meaning to out-damage the Enlightened crown, you'd need to be dealing 212.5 physical damage per hit for the headgear to buff that damage by 42.5 to 255 physical damage per hit. A couple of examples to reach that damage per hit is using Mighty Wolfgang with Blow Darts and Chili Spice, which is 240 damage per hit, but buffed by the W.A.R.B.I.S headgear increases it by 48 damage, making the total damage 288. Or Wanda with Spicy Volt Goat Jelly versus a non-wet target, deals 257.04 damage, but increased by the W.A.R.B.I.S headgear by 51.408, dealing a total damage of 308.448. The W.A.R.B.I.S headgear gets a little worse and more complex versus a planet entity enemy, since the W.A.R.B.I.S gear makes your damage number go higher, therefore reducing the effectiveness of its buff, as the planet entity will reduce your physical damage more the higher it is. Whereas the crown is its own individual hit, so the damage doesn't get reduced as much, but boo, planar mechanics. If you want to learn more about planar mechanics, watch the planar explanation section of my Wolfgang guide video, linked in the description. I ain't going over it in this video, it takes too long. So basically, unless you're already doing an absurd amount of physical damage, the Enlightened crown is better if you keep your sanity above 85% of your max and your Gestalts aren't missing too often. I have specifically been saying physical damage as the damage bonus does not affect planar damage, like most damage bonuses, so this armor really does not work well with any kind of planar damage dealing weapon, as it only amplifies the physical aspect of the weapon. To give a very extreme example of this, using the W.A.R.B.I.S headgear at 4 charges with the Howlitzer on a player with no other damage multipliers, you will deal 74.8 damage rather than 68, as the W.A.R.B.I.S headgear only amplifies the physical part of the weapon, which is only 34. But if you pair the Howlitzer with an Enlightened crown, one hit of 68 from the Howlitzer will trigger a Gestalt, which deals 42.5 additional damage to spawn and attempt to hit the enemy. So to beat the W.A.R.B.I.S headgear's damage, only 1 in every 6 Gestalts has to actually hit the enemy. So yeah, 5 out of 6 of them can miss, and you still outdamage the W.A.R.B.I.S headgear while using the Howlitzer specifically. But this helmet not only provides you damage, but also provides the before-mentioned physical and planar damage reduction, which the crown does not. So it's up to you which one you want to use. The W.A.R.B.I.S headgear is good, it's just that the Enlightened crown's damage is disgustingly good. And that's all the armor pieces. Now there are a few more things introduced with this update which we'll go over, as some of them influence the pathing for an all-boss speedrun. But firstly, in this update they slightly changed hunts, which is following the dirt piles. So before this update, when you would do a hunt, you would have a chance to find one of 3 things at the end of the hunt: a Koalefant, a Yukos, or a Varg. And the older your world was, the higher the chance you would either find a Yukos or a Varg. The highest chance being 33%, capping at day 100, so a 16.5% chance to find a Varg or a 16.5% chance to find a Yukos. While on day 1, the chance was 5% to find either a Yukos or a Varg. Otherwise, you would find a Koalefant, of course. But with this update, they changed how this works, so here we go. While doing your hunt, if your hunt would become a dangerous hunt, hunt, so you would get a Varg or a Jukos, then your hunt path will get some paw prints, indicating that it will be a dangerous hunt. Following this dangerous path will eventually end the hunt with either a Jukos or a Varg. These creatures can be found in 2 to 3 different states depending on how long you took to complete the hunt. If you have no speed bonus and you didn't stop or lose the track, so you wasted no time, then you will almost definitely find either a sleeping Jukos with some meat on the floor, or a Varg and some hounds eating a koalefant corpse with some meat on the floor, and both scenarios will have a koalefant trunk on the floor perhaps. Both creatures have seemingly just killed and started to eat a koalefant, which is way more disturbing than I thought it would be with the Varg and the hounds new eating animations. Anyway, if you followed the dangerous path but wasted about 10 seconds of time, you will find either a Varg that is sleeping as it has just finished eating the koalefant corpse, or a sleeping Jukos, which is the same as before. If you followed the dangerous path but wasted about at least 20 seconds of time, you will find a koalefant corpse with nothing else in sight. Or did you? Because after getting a closer look, either a Varg or a Jukos pops out of the koalefant corpse and attacks you. You have been pranked and you have become the hunt. If you don't want to deal with this trap, simply either stay away from it or just never touch the dangerous path once the hunt reveals itself to be dangerous. Also, if you are the one being hunted so you've taken too long, your character keeps saying, "I feel like I'm being watched," so it's very obvious if you're running into a trap. And like I said earlier in the video, if a lunar portal is active somewhere in the world, your hunt will always have dangerous footprints and will always be a dangerous hunt, and it will always lead you to a Varg and some hounds in one of their states that I've listed above, depending how long you took to do the hunt. Anyway, these changes don't mechanically change how fast or slow you can get Vargs, since you could simply get a warning that your hunt is dangerous, unless of course a lunar portal is active where you always get a Varg, which is very epic because I plan on doing a boss run that heavily utilizes my before mentioned Varg farm, and I need Vargs for my Varg farm, so I like these changes. Lunar Hail. While a lunar portal is active, Lunar Hail will happen every 10 days and it will last for 90 seconds. This Lunar Hail is separate from normal rain, and it drops moon shards and infused moon shards from the sky, which deal 30 physical damage if you get hit by them. Though armor does reduce the damage, and Woody's hardwood hat or standing under a tree negates the damage completely. When the shard falls, they have a 25% chance to not break, so you can pick them up for 5 seconds. Using an umbrella made by killing the Inkblight trio and using the materials at a Shadowcraft plinth grants a field of immunity from the Lunar Hail, seemingly destroying any moon shards that would have entered the area of effect. Cool. While a lunar portal is active, new bright-eyed frogs have a 60% chance to replace a normal frog in frog rain during spring. This means 60% of their frogs during frog rain will be bright-eyed frogs, not a 60% chance for the entire frog rain to be bright-eyed frogs. These frogs have 150 health, deal 10 physical and 5 planar damage, and make you drop either 2 or 3 items from your inventory if you get hit by them. Upon defeating one of these frogs, they drop 2 frog legs, and they are planar entities, so they reduce the physical damage dealt to them. Now, a new Pearl task has been added so that you can Celestial Champion Rush a little bit easier. This is a big deal because some of our tasks take a long time or are very RNG reliant, but now you can do this simple task instead. The task is simply to make her a chair. But to unlock this chair blueprint, you must go to the ruins, find the sitting horror, poke him, he drops the replica ruins chair blueprint. You can also get this blueprint by putting Thule Sight Medallion, Cutstone, Nightmare Fuel, Purple Gem, Rabbit, and Petals into the ancient chest by the naturally spawning repaired suit. That's how I just do. But fighting this sitting horror is easier. Man, I messed up. Craft and place this chair on Pearl's Island, and she will insult your craftsmanship and give you the blueprint for the Sawhorse. The Sawhorse allows you to craft a bunch of woodworking stuff like tables, lamps, and portraits of Banjo. But we want a wooden chair, which after crafting and placing on Pearl's Island, she will give you a friend point, aka a task. Wow. This is useful because, duh, you need Pearl's Pearl to kill Celestial Champion to unlock the portals, which enables all of the crystallized bosses. This also means you can skip a task which would normally take longer, and Latnish Monster told me about using fishing trawler tech to catch fish automatically for Pearl's tasks, so it does not take nearly as long. We will talk more about that in an actual speedrun, which will be the next video, probably. Now, the Sawhorse itself. So we discussed how to acquire the Sawhorse, but what can it make? Basically a bunch of decorative furniture, but this furniture can have some practical implications, such as being an access point to a closed-off area like a Varg farm. More specifically, 9 different recipes for chairs, tables, tools, lamps, art, and portraits. One which you can draw any item on using a feather pencil, and one which already has a picture of the handsome promotional police and his stinky ex-wife. You can craft a gramophone from an alchemy engine with 3 gold, 2 electrical doodads, and 1 gear, along with a record with 1 batwing, oddly, and 1 charcoal, and use the clean sweeper on the record to switch between record types. All of which will play different music on the gramophone, which is cool, but also has a practical use of tending to farm crops in a 2-tile radius around it, but will stop playing music after some time. Pretty neat, I like it. Movable Houndius Shootius. After placing a Houndius Shootius, you can never move it again. You could only kill it to get rid of it. But now you can use the deconstruction staff to deconstruct it to get all the ingredients back and then recraft it at a pseudo science station to effectively move them. Epic. Anyway, that is all. Thank you to Arkwell, Blacknish Monster, Katorial, and all of my Twitch chat for helping me test all of this stuff, sharing tips, and checking the code to verify facts and figures. There is a Don't Starve Together skin drop for the Magiluminescence on Twitch right now, which you can watch me or many other Don't Starve creators to unlock. Epic. Finn.